Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the countdown of the best players to wear jerseys 30 through 1 in NFL history. My name is Mike. I host a podcast called Sports and Real Shit. If you're new here, check out the podcast and check out the rest of the videos in this series as well. I've been having a good time. I think you'll enjoy it too if you like that kind of stuff, if you like NFL history. Today we're down to number 7. Pretty good list of number 7. So if y'all ready, let's go. We're starting off with John Elway. I think that makes sense to start there. Probably the best in this number, but we'll see. John Elway played 16 years. I'm going to tell you, man, as great as he was, I feel like he was underrated because the stats that he retired with don't line up with when we think of cats today. And, every year everybody's throwing for 5,000 and 4,000 yards. It's like, you ain't do nothing, John Elway. You didn't throw 30 touchdowns. You didn't throw 40 touchdowns. You weren't like that. When really John Elway was like that. Original dual threat cat, could run, throw. Like he was really like the early version, the 1.0 version of Josh Allen. Had a freaking cannon for an arm. Like John Elway had like probably one of the top 3 arms to ever play in the NFL, man. The way he could rifle a football like 50, 60 yards downfield on a freaking line, not many guys could do that. Just a straight bullet. Like I said, 16 years, 51,475 yards. 300 touchdowns, 226 picks. Of course, people are going to look at that and say, ooh, that's a lot of picks. 33 rushing touchdowns for his career. 11 times he threw for 3K. One time he threw for 4,000 yards in 1993, which was 40-30, 25 touchdowns and 10 picks. 6 times he threw for 20 touchdowns. 9-time Pro Bowler. 2-time Super Bowl champ. 1987 MVP. Super Bowl 33 MVP. Hall of Famer. 31 career comebacks. 40 game-winning drives. Not much else I can say about John Elway. I know he didn't win Super Bowls, until Terrell Davis got there, but he took some pretty not so great teams in Denver to the Super Bowl, man, like 3 times, and ran up against great teams and ended up losing. Still in all, brother was a beast. And like I said, if this guy played today, his numbers would be unfathomable because he could throw accurately, throw far, anywhere you want it on the field. He could put it. And he could run like a freaking bull. So there was nothing much you could do with this guy. Like I said, you think the league is struggling with Josh Allen? The league would be struggling with freaking John Elway. And he would be putting some unbelievable stats if he played today. But anyway, 2-time Super Bowl winner, Hall of Famer. No complaints from John, I'm sure, about his career. You may think he's overrated. I think the guy's underrated. His numbers may not show it, but he was a flat-out baller. He's one of the first cats I remember watching on TV. I was a Dolphins fan, so I watched Dan Marino. And anytime they talk about Dan Marino, the stat behind him would be like John Elway. You talk about comebacks, John Elway. You talk about arms and arm talent. Every time you talk Dan Marino, you had to talk about John Elway. He was kind of like the next guy in terms of, best quarterbacks in the league. And one of the top 3 for sure arm talents to ever play in the NFL. There's no doubt about that one. If we're moving on, another guy who was a contemporary to John Elway, Boomer Esiason. And doing some research on Boomer Esiason, I did not know his real name was Julius. Julius Esiason doesn't sound as cool as Boomer. I'm going to leave it there. 14 years, Cincinnati, the Jets, Arizona, 37,920 yards, 247 touchdowns, 184 picks, 4-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. Boomer Esiason actually won an MVP in 1988. People don't know that. 3,572 yards, 28 touchdowns, 14 picks. Those sound pedestrian, and even for those days, that was pretty pedestrian to be able to win an MVP with 28 touchdowns and 14 picks. But that's another story. But in 89, which was a better year, he threw for 35-35, 38 touchdowns and 11 picks. Why didn't he win the MVP in 89 versus 88? I don't know. 7 times he threw for 3K. 5 times he threw 10 touchdowns. In his career, 19 comebacks, 26 game-winning drives. Boomer Esiason was a baller. Lefty. People don't remember that. People know him as a TV guy now. But Boomer was certainly one of the best quarterbacks going in his generation. So shout out to Boomer Esiason, really good career. He was dual threat, mobile as well, right? He could run, he could throw accurately down the field. One of the underrated guys of his generation, Boomer Esiason, one of the best number 7s in league history. If we're moving on chronologically, we'll get to Michael Vick. And Vick's career got disrupted because of the whole dog ring thing and crazy stuff going on there. I could say a lot more about that, but I'm going to leave it there. Mike Vick played 13 years, really 11, ATL, Philadelphia, and then towards the end of his career, he was like a journeyman with the Jets in Pittsburgh. Only 22,464 yards, 133 touchdowns passing, 88 picks. But he wasn't much of a passer, and self-admittedly, he said he wasn't much in his playbook, especially in Atlanta. I wish somebody like Vick would have had a coach like Andy Reid early on to mentor him, to get him right, so that to maximize his talent. And if you guys haven't, are new here, like check out the podcast. I have an episode that talks about the role of luck and success. And Michael Vick would have been lucky and would have a much better career, right? So he was unlucky to have gone to the Atlanta Falcons and the lack of structure there. How does a coach not know that your star quarterback is not in his playbook? I feel like if he had a better coach, they would have known that, and they would have groomed him better, kept him out of trouble, and helped him to maximize his talent. But y'all go check out that episode. Shameless plug. 4-time Pro Bowler, 2010 Comeback Player of the Year, 14 career comebacks, 15 game-winning drives. The stats don't tell the story of Michael Vick, man. Just an amazing athlete. People compare him to Lamar Jackson, and I can see the comparison, but I'm going to tell you, man, Mike Vick was just an experience, bro. He was so fast, so quick, so damn elusive. I still remember that highlight of him making two, I think, Minnesota Vikings players crash into each other as he's just running straight. Like, he was just that guy, man. And if you didn't grow up watching him live, you're only catching the highlights, you're only catching a glimpse. The brother was a true experience. As a Florida State alum, I watched him almost beat Florida State, which was stacked with pro football players at that time in 1999, almost beat us by himself in the championship game. There was nothing like this dude. His arm was one of the nastiest ever. With a flick of the wrist, the ball will go 60, 70 yards. I've never seen anything like it. He's an unbelievable talent. It's a shame that he didn't get to maximize his talent and who he could have been. But still in all, Mike Vick was one of the absolute best Super Bowl number 7 in league history. The highlights alone warrants him being part of this list, all right? I'm sorry. But moving on to Ben Roethlisberger, who was a great passer and mobile in his own right. You couldn't bring down Big Ben. He played like he was much older, kind of like he was kind of like one of those dudes, who just played older than he really was. Phillip Rivers was like that. I talked about that. Phillip Rivers is younger than me by like 3 days or something like that. But he moved like he was 10 years older than me. Ben Roethlisberger played 18 years, took a lot of hits, man. Because he was so big and strong, he took a lot of shots. But 64,000 yards, 64,088 yards for his career, 418 touchdowns, 211 picks is nothing to sneeze at. 20 rushing touchdowns as well. 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ early in his career. 2004 Offensive Player of the Year. 4 times he had 4,000 yards. 1 time he had 5,000. 4 times he had 30-plus touchdowns. 2014, he had 4,952 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 9 picks, led the NFL in yards. 2018, he had 5,118 yards, 34 touchdowns, 16 picks, led the NFL in yards, attempts, completions, and unfortunately, interceptions that year. 41 career comebacks, 53 picks. All I can say is Big Ben was a baller. One of the iconic, historic, best throws in NFL history, that throw to Santonio Holmes to win the Super Bowl against the Cardinals. He was tough as hell, man. Didn't back down under pressure. Wasn't scared of comebacks and tough environments. His only downfall was they couldn't overcome Tom Brady and the Patriots. But nobody could in that era, all right? That's just the kind of the team they had. But Ben Roethlisberger overall was just one of the absolute best. And that draft class was stacked. He probably comes out on top when you think of that draft class and who all was in it. But no doubt one of the best number 7s ever, one of the best players and quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL, Ben Roethlisberger. So if you ask me who I had to choose, Big Ben no doubt's up there, but I'm going to go with John Elway. I saw John Elway play live, man. It's not just the highlights. And I'm telling you, if John Elway had a chance to play in this era, He is shattering all types of records. He's really like Josh Allen. People talk about Josh Allen. He was the 1.0 cannon of an arm dude. That's all I can say, man. John Elway was the guy, and he would have been shattering all types of records had he played in this open, spaced out game where the quarterback can do whatever he wanted. So I'll go with him at number 1. Big Ben, I think, falls in at number 2 as the best all-time number 7s in NFL history. Let me know what y'all think. Hit me up. John Elway, Big Ben, Vick, Esaison, maybe somebody else I missed. Who knows? But I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Appreciate you watching once again. Mike, Sports on the Real Shit. We'll do number 6 next. Peace.